Hello and welcome to United View and welcome to the Red Room, the show that is always important here on United View, doing the review of the last week's games, the last two games. By the way, last week was a big cup games, massive cup games, and the two games the week in the front, two Premier League games against Spurs and Villa, and just a general chat about everything that's happened in the week. I have with me Mina, the wonderful Mina. How have you been?
Good. Had better weeks, but
it's been interesting. This week's been interesting, especially the cup games, the kind of the fight that we've had to produce in these two games. It's been high emotions.
I'm just ready for the season. I just feel like it's just been so much football we've consumed over the last 6 months with the World Cup, and I just feel like we've consumed so much football, and we're playing practically 2-3 games a week. We're playing midweek and then every weekend until the end of the season, man. That's exhausting. I'm exhausted watching it. Imagine how the players feel. It's
crazy. I think in April alone, I think there's another 6 games. I think the last few months since January or so, it's been about 6-7 games a month. You're right. I mean, towards the end of the season now, do you expect maybe a little bit of a tail off, or a little bit of fatigue?
I mean, we're seeing it now with the injuries. Obviously, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah,
but we're seeing it now with the injuries. It's starting to catch up with us, like this run of games, and even Ten Hag has spoken about it in the press. Yeah,
and in the last presser, he did speak about the run of games. But lots of things to talk about in the show today, like you said. The injury crisis or potential injury crisis, the games, transfers. I've got a question for you as well. But we'll start with the comment of the week. Obviously, something that we said we was going to add. Comments of the viewers and about the last show. And we have a comment here from Salman bin Ahmed. Enzo Lee, is a generational talent, by the way. He is a Pedri of Barca. My God, that boy will be awesome wherever he goes. What do you think of Enzo Lee? Because I
think he's a good player, but Pedri levels?
It's early doors. It's early doors.
I wouldn't say it's early. One thing I like about Enzo Lee is that he's, like low cost, low risk, or if that's even a thing. He doesn't have a big price tag on his head right now. He wants to leave. He's made it very clear this season that he wants to leave in the summer, and he could be an option. Like I did mention him. I think Salman is referring to my comment about because I mentioned him last week as a Frankie de Jong, Bellingham, whatever
ball carrying type,
cheaper option. But to say like he's Pedri levels, like that's crazy to me. But bear in mind, this is a kid who's 23 now. He's come up from the second tier of football in the France League with his team, with Lorient, and then has spent 3 seasons of getting experience playing consistently. He's got over 30 plus appearances at senior level for the last 3 seasons. Pedri, I don't know. But I agree, he will be awesome wherever he goes. I agree with that.
Generational is a big statement. I mean, if you're looking at generational, I'm thinking Musiala, I am thinking Pedri. That's too early to call. These lot are playing at top teams and doing it at top teams. I think he's still young, and a lot of people are talking about his abilities, on the ball and stuff. And I think they're good, but it's more for a 10 position. I've got a 10 already in Bruno Fernandes.
He ain't a 10. I wouldn't say he's
You don't think a 10?
I think he can play in an 8. I think he can play in that 8. And the thing is like with Bruno, we've seen it this over the last couple months. Bruno is not exclusively a 10 player.
That's true.
So whoever we get is very much interchangeable.
Yes.
I'm actually curious to see in the summer if we end up changing our formation. Are we going to stick with that, that 2-3-1 in front of the defenders? I'm interested. Would we ever go to like a Casemiro by himself, holding and a switch of formation? And obviously I'm opening a can of worms here, but it's interesting to see. Maybe because I'm thinking about the Flex and KG playing FIFA yesterday, the stream where they had I thought it was a weird formation they were playing. They were playing 4-5-1, and that's not really a FIFA formation. But would that work for us? I don't know. We have to wait and see.
Do you know what? It's a good point that you make though, because in that shape that they were doing on the Flex and KG FIFA stream, it's kind of what you're talking about there in terms of Casemiro being on his own. And I think that's important. I think that's where we need to be. I think Frankie de Jong was meant to be that kind of player on his own, holding the midfield line and bringing the ball, out of the defensive line into the midfield, spraying the passes and stuff. And then maybe you have a Casemiro, a bit like an Alvarez that used to play for Ajax.
Do you think Casemiro has the legs to play by himself there in the Premier League?
That's a good question.
He's 30 now, 31, whatever. We're going to have to buy his understudy in the next couple seasons.
Yes.
Maybe the next 2 seasons or so. We'll have to buy an understudy to him that can maybe play alongside him for a bit before they officially take over from him. So I don't know if it will be a smart idea to play him in that loan. Will we ever see like a 4-3-3 again at Manchester United?
Yes.
Will we ever see 4-4-2? Like 4-4-2 to me, I don't know what it is. No one plays that formation anymore.
Yeah, it's done. And
that's my favourite formation.
Is it?
Yeah, 4-4-2, two centre midfielders, 2 wingers, and 2 strikers.
But Mina, you're a centre midfielder.
No, but I like 4-4-2. Like to me, that's a traditional formation.
No, I don't know.
4-4-2 is a traditional formation.
I agree with that. It's just that you're so I'm assuming now you're fit because as a centre midfielder, you've only got your other centre midfield partner, and usually you're playing against 3 in the midfield system.
I'll tell you the truth. Yeah, majority of my teenagehood, up until about 19, I was playing in goal. I was a goalkeeper.
Sounded like Rashford right now. You sounded like Rashi.
I was a goalkeeper.
You sounded like Rashi right now.
I only started playing in midfield when I played for my university team.
Is it?
And then after then, I just played midfield. So
what made you fall in love with? What was happened? What was the story?
I can't remember what happened. I was at training once for my uni team. We were at training, and I think they were like a player short, and we're doing drills, but it was like a 9-a-side team. Where we were preparing for the game midweek against another university, and then the coach was just like to me, "Oh, do you want to go midfield? You're tall." I was like, "Okay." Go on then.
Hey, listen.
And the rest is history.
Listen.
But I loved playing in goal. Playing in goal was my favourite thing. You know why? Because when it comes to my favourite thing to do I was a reckless goalkeeper. Like, ask anyone who grew up with me that I used to play ball with, I was a reckless goalkeeper where I got kicked in my head multiple times because I used to come rushing out like 2-foot.
Yeah.
I used to 2-foot strikers all the time.
Yeah.
I've got sent off so many times as a goalkeeper. I've gotten sent off so many times, but it was good times.
Do you know what? I'm a good goalkeeper, But really? On a 7-a-side.
Nah, me is 11-a-side, 9-a-side.
I can't play 11-a-side in goal.
5-a-side I don't really like to play in goal because it's pointless. But 9-a-side, 11-a-side, like for me, playing 9-a-side and 11-a-side was my favourite to play in goal. I loved it. I lived for those moments.
Listen, I don't mind going in goal, I can do a decent shift in there, 7-a-side or 5-a-side. But different to yourself, similar in a different way with it. I was a forward. I started off as a forward and then slowly went further back the field.
I couldn't play up front. I ain't got the tech.
I'm a bagsman.
I ain't got the tech to score. But what I can do is control the game.
I'm a bagsman. But just on Enzo, we'll bring it back to Enzo.
Back
to his versatility. I think you're right though, because I said he's a 10, and that's because of the abilities that I think he has on the ball, man. Really silky footballer, can carry, takes on players. I think he's a 10, but you're right. He can play in multiple positions in that midfield area. And on Seville and the other game against Brighton. Bruno in particular in that Seville game, we missed him. He's a massive miss, and I think in the game against Forest and the first Seville game, you can see, and you're talking about someone that plays in that 6/8 role, and Man United eventually, I think you're right, maybe developing into a standalone 6 and 2 8s. Bruno's important, adding legs in that midfield and filling in gaps.
What do you think went wrong in that Sevilla game?
No, Bruno and Casemiro's had 2 bad games,
Casemiro, he's really gone under the radar lately. And you know what? When I watch him, sometimes I feel like he's a bit apprehensive in his decisions, i.e. he doesn't want to put a challenge in. He doesn't want to be too physical because he might get booked, he might get sent off. And because of that, I don't know if anybody else agrees with me, but I feel like he's holding back. I really feel like, and I saw it on the Brighton game, and I was thinking, the Sevilla game, I was thinking, what the hell is wrong with him? And you can see it not just going, like, he doesn't have that urgency to get forward more. And in the Brighton game, I thought it was down to the fact that he kept slotting into the centre-back position when Luke Shaw was going forward. Okay, cool, totally understand that. But there was times where he was giving the ball away. He was so sloppy in possession. And it goes under the radar here because in the Sevilla game, because everybody was poor. But if it's a game where it's 1-1 and that one player has a stinky performance, he would stand out. He would actually stand out. So I don't know what's going on with him.
It's a good point. I mean, and it's almost like he's going back to that form where Scott was keeping out of the team. Just looks a little bit unsure with his passing. The forward game for me is the issue, And when we're talking about what's going wrong, especially that Seville game and adding Casemiro into it, it's his forward passing, his assurance on the ball, even off the ball. when he's defending, for me, it's not because I think you're saying he's a bit apprehensive. I feel like he's just too excited. He's too exuberant. He's going into these challenges, and it looks like if he connects with the player, he gets a second yellow, and it's an early shower for him. He needs to just manage the temperament a little bit, and the last 2 games haven't been brilliant for him. But you're right, it's gone under the radar a little bit, you know.
But I think it can go under the radar because I think it would be different if we were having a run of like poor games.
He's just come back from an injury,
and he's come back from a long term, like a 4-game suspension.
A suspension.
Yeah, he's come back from a suspension. Players have been injured. He's playing with a different back four every other game.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to like give him a bit of leeway in that instance. But that Sevilla game for me, pathetic. That's the only description I had for the game. I didn't even want to talk about it the day after the game.
I remember.
I didn't want to talk about it. I had nothing to say but pathetic. Every single player on that pitch to me was pathetic. They were pointless. They were useless. They were just I just had nothing to say about it. Like, honestly, nothing.
I remember you saying it, you know, on our last episode. You know, you was confident. You was confident.
I was,
you were saying, listen,
and you were saying I'm nervous, and then you messaged me after the game saying,
see? I was shook, man. I can't lie, because honestly, man, I was shaking the whole game, thinking, oh my gosh, look at what the team's doing, like, and that's our massive issue, and we've said it plenty of times about our away form. It's just,
and even like the Sevilla fans, I was watching from my television. I can't imagine how they felt.
Yeah.
But if you're playing on a pitch where all you see is a sea of white in the crowd, everybody's wearing white shirts. I don't know if it's a thing. Maybe it's a unofficial rule for like Sevilla home games where everybody wears white. Because the whole crowd was wearing white. They were loud as hell. And I feel like just the moment got into the players' heads. I feel like that's what happened, and they just capitulated. Like Sevilla wasn't amazing. To me, like they did not like ball us out of the pitch. I think Brighton gave us a better game than Sevilla did. We were just pathetic. Like we were just horrible, like poor, like we were ass. We were so many stuff. Like honestly, every single player. And another performance that has gone under the radar is Rashford. That Brighton game, pathetic.
Yeah, ever since the game at Wembley against Newcastle or against Barcelona, in fact, I think it was at home.
Is that injury?
Yeah,
ever since he got that injury.
He's not been the same player, and Flex made a point about it. I think the other day with in Cam's tactical view, just on the lack of running, and top players sometimes, you know, Mbappe, you see him cut corners. I think Ronaldo, you know, Man United the first time would cut corners sometimes, and even the second time would cut corners. I think when you're pushed into that position of you're the main man, sometimes you do cut corners, but in that tactical shape and for that game, like you're saying, just killed us, you know, and allowed Brighton to play fluid football in their strongest phases. You know, Pep's been saying it, Ten Hag's been saying it. You know, their first phase, the build-up phase, is where Brighton plays some of their best football, and Rashford didn't help us.
It's the difference between him and Anthony that game. For me, it was so visible, the difference. And the difference was defensive duties. Yeah. There was times I was shouting at my screen. I was getting so frustrated with Rashford. Dallo was getting doubled up. Yes. He was getting doubled up every single time. And I'm like, why is he don't look 100%. Has he been rushed back? Yeah. Is he not 100% fit? Anthony, on the other hand, I really applaud him for like the work he does defensively. Yeah. Especially when he doesn't have to, because it's Wan-Bissaka. Like, I would trust Wan-Bissaka to defend by himself.
He's got a brilliant partner, Wan-Bissaka. Yeah, and by the way, Wan-Bissaka for the last, I know we're talking about Casemiro. Casemiro wasn't there. Bruno wasn't there in the Seville game, but Wan-Bissaka in that Seville game, strong tackles, had a little bit of a shot. You know, was playing a bit inverted in terms of a fullback and doing the underlapping runs, but he's fantastic.
Two people that have stood out to me in this last week or so is Wan-Bissaka and Lindelof. Yeah. And I feel like with Lindelof, we need to respect him more. Yeah. He's a squad player. He can be a squad player. He can be a rotational player. He can be a centre-back that we can rely on when called upon. And I always say this, when it comes to players on the bench, you want them to, when they're called upon, to perform. Malacia, whoever it is. Whereas a lot of the players that we have on our team, they're just not like that. Yeah. They're not reliable. Lindelof has been put into this bracket with Harry Maguire, and I think we need to take him out of it. It's unfair on him. This is a guy who has racked up more than 150 appearances, I think, at the club. Yeah. He's been, I think, without Maguire, and even when he plays with Maguire, I feel like he still plays good, but he looks out of out of position sometimes because he's covering Maguire. But I do feel like in a game where we were like missing leadership and we were missing, you know, that oomph from the back, he really stepped up to the task. Do you know,
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I think finally, I would say, because last season I think he was heavily underwhelming, and the squad, the whole team last season was heavily underwhelming. But, you know, he looks a bit timid at times. You know, he doesn't look like a physically strong player. I remember games against Burnley last season where he was just getting bullied. I think it's by the same Wow or his strike partner last season. But, you know, against more physical players, Lindelof struggles. But in this system, playing a similar kind of style to Varane, a sweeper kind of role, using your brain, your intelligence, your passing range. He has a brilliant passing range, a little bit more time on the ball when you're not forced to be as high up in the defensive line. You're a little bit lower doing the sweeper role. I think it suits him, you know, and the demands suit him. Malacia, I've seen Malacia talk on how Lindelof looks like the one out of all the players in the squad that would become a manager. So you can tell he has intelligence and a good footballing mind.
He's the captain of the Sweden team, isn't he?
I believe so.
I think he's the captain of his national team. I mean, Sweden haven't got that many wow players, but
I believe so. But
it's still a big deal to be the captain of your national team.
Exactly, and we're talking about leaders. You know, Ten Hag's mentioned leaders the whole season. You know, Casemiro, Martinez, but you know he's got those attributes and an ice cold penalty. Manchester United into the finals of the FA Cup, the women's team in the finals again as well against Chelsea and the women's team. So that's both, you know, men's and women's team for Manchester United in finals, and we're in the right direction, and everyone's contributing to the benefit of the squad right now.
You know what? Yeah, this season I think I won't talk in depth about the women's team, but one thing I can say is the women's team are where they're expected to be. Over the course of the last 5 years, under Ten Hag, nobody knew where we would be in a season's time. I remember people saying top 4, and no trophy. Let's just focus on top 4. Now people are saying they're disappointed without the Europa League, FA Cup. Okay, bring on City. Yeah, let's try solidify third place in the table. I think once this ownership malarkey is over, and it should, I think the last round of bids is the end of this week.
Yes.
28th. Or 27th or whatever of April.
Yeah.
So that's the last round. So hoping that this whole nonsense with the ownership stuff is finalised and the Glazers are gone, because I don't want them to stay, and they're gone. Hopefully that could be a new chapter for the men and the women's team where they can start it on a good foot, because they'll be hopefully coming off of 2 relatively good seasons in comparison to where they were. You know, not just the FA Cup, but the women are in contention to do the double, so that's a whole nother thing. Obviously, if you guys want to see women's content, we're going to keep it coming, because there's quite a lot to play for.
There is.
But in terms of this season for the men's team, nobody knew where we would be.
Exactly.
No one knew how this defensive. If you came to me after the Brighton game, the second game of the season, I wanted the season to end there and there.
I remember the Brentford game even as well. I think that's the next game or something.
The Brentford game, yeah. I wanted the season to end there and then.
I mean, honestly, the expectations for this club and Ten Hag in particular as well, it's changed. You know, he's done so well. We were saying at the beginning of the season, like you're saying, 6th, you know, 5th, if we're lucky, just good football, some people. But for us to now say that we've secured 4th.
Where do you think turned it around? Between you know, the Brentford loss and the Brighton loss at the beginning of the season and the World Cup break. At what point do you think United turned it around?
The moment Ten Hag decides that they have to go and do a run after that Brentford game, I think is, you know, when he says, you know what, you're all going for a run. You know, we all are in this together, we all suffer together. I think that just changed the mentality. We was a bit worried about whether Martinez is good enough as a centre-back. The jury was still out on him. You know, and then the big game against Liverpool came after that, I think. Then Man City, we get put down again. Then we have to reinvent ourselves again. I
think we beat Arsenal and Liverpool.
Yeah.
And then we got slapped by City. And then it was back down in the dumps. And then Europa League, lost the opening game to Real Sociedad.
Yeah.
And then we went on a good run.
World Cup, and then post-World Cup comes. You know, loads of good form there in January and February.
I think we really started to pick up form after the World Cup. Because I remember that Fulham game, last game before the World Cup break, where Garnacho equalised late minute. And then straight that same night, the interview came out about Ronaldo and Piers Morgan.
What a season it's been.
It's been, you know what, so much has happened this season.
What a season it's
that
been.
there's things that have happened, and I'm like, did that happen this season or last season? I'm like, did that happen last year or this year? Because I'm just like, so much has happened, and that's what I'm saying. There's been so much football. There's been so like, this is not related to United, but the Conte and Tuchel beef at Stamford Bridge. That was at the beginning of the season, but I feel like that was a classic. I feel like that was 2 seasons ago. I feel like that was a long time ago.
Wow. Yeah. That was a classic though.
Even the 6-3 City game, I don't feel like that was this season.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't feel like that was it because it felt
I was
like
there,
so long
Vex
ago.
in the ground just
I
like this.
remember.
I'm there screwing, you know, man. Vex.
I remember. It's just so much stuff has happened this season. Like even the whole Ronaldo thing.
Yep.
And I think maybe it's because of like the World Cup break, innit? I think it's because of the break during the World Cup. But talking about, you know, how the seasons have, how things have progressed during the season. Bruno obviously picked up it looked like a knock.
Yes.
In the FA Cup game, and then here his wife posted this picture on Instagram of him with his foot up. That's a lot of cushions.
Football's in the background.
He's got a boot. He's got crutches. What's it? It's called rest.
Ice elevation.
Compression.
Yeah,
elevation.
rest, ice, elevation, compression.
Yeah,
Yeah. Whatever it's called.
He would be a big loss. And he's not, obviously there's Varane, not sure when he's back. He should be back soon, apparently. Yeah. Martinez is out for the season. Garnacho back in the gym.
Scott, I think's out as well.
Scott McTominay out.
Yeah.
You know,
Heaton.
Martial and Rashford are just... Did you just say Heaton?
Listen, you're seeing what's happening, man. I'm just mentioning.
What's Heaton got to do with this?
He's out.
Okay, but what relevance does his absence make?
We might need another goalkeeper to go see the sticks. I'm being serious. Every single player is important.
Bro, you are unhinged. You know, yeah. You know what I realised? We've normalised this with Marcel, yeah. But this is why a lot of people think you're crazy, and we don't think much of it because we're so used to it. But that is as bad as you saying Dubravka when you said Dubravka in the warm-up was promising.
He was, and players can be promising. And Cams has mentioned it the other day. Cams mentioned it to Flex that, you know...
Listen, you and Cam, anything you say about goalkeepers...
No,
it's
we're
coming
right.
From a different place.
It's coming from a
no,
good
but
place.
you just confidently guys. Please put it in the comments if you think that that's normal. You said it with chest. I named players that have played, you know, a consistent amount of football for United this season. That we are missing their absence is making an impact.
Yeah.
I mentioned, you know, Martinez,
fantastic
Varane,
player.
Garnacho. You mentioned Scott McTominay. Then you turn around and say to me, Tom Heaton. How many times has he played this season?
I don't know, but he's an invaluable member of the team because when our goalkeeper is being inefficient, we need somebody to step in that can talk to the players.
I have no problem with Tom Heaton. I have no problem with him. I think it's important to have a number 2 or number 3 on the bench.
And he'll be good in the warm-ups as well. That's why you're laughing. I'm being deadly serious. I'm being deadly serious with that. He'll be a top player.
I can't take you. Bro, I can't take you serious. I can't take you serious. Anyway, guys, injured players that are injured.
Yes.
Heaton, whoever you want to say.
Yeah.
I don't think Bruno is a player that we cannot afford to get injured.
We've seen it.
Because when he's suspended, you've seen how we play without him.
Yeah.
Imagine if we had to go the rest of the season without him.
He's been a key player and it's gone unnoticed because, you know, a lot of people are worried about this distribution. But even that, he's tapered and he's managed to tame that side of his game. Ten Hag's been brilliant working with him. We've seen him go into deeper areas of the midfield, and his absence when he's not playing in the team is massive. It's all clear to see. Casemiro's just come back from injury. I think Shaw's just come back from injury. So still players. Martial just about played a 90 the other day. So there's other players as well that are just kind of getting used to match fitness. But Bruno, every time he plays, it's like he's playing at 105%.
Would you say that we have an injury crisis?
There's potential there for it. I mean, 8 to 10 to 12 games left. I mean, 8 in the Premier League and maybe a couple more games to finish off the league. Can we survive with this squad? I think the top 4 potentially wrapped up. I think a 6-pointer against Spurs maybe does the job. So the squad's thin. I think we know that, and I think throughout the whole season we've known the squad to be thin. But with no Bruno now, going into the rest of the season, Scott's not around. You got a big game against City coming up. Hopefully the players are rested. You know, Rashford needs rest, man.
City game ain't anytime soon.
It's not.
That's June the 3rd.
It's not, but...
Bro, we're in April.
Yeah, but it's not. But you're looking at, hopefully, the players that are injured now to be fit for it, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
You know what? Obviously, Martinez, no. Garnacho, news came out today that he's decided to go to the Under-20 World Cup that's being held in Argentina. And I think apparently Manchester United hierarchy, Ten Hag, etc., did not want him to go because of the risk of injury, all of that stuff. Now, apparently I'm saying apparently, this is just what I'm seeing on social media, obviously, because of a lot of great Argentina players have played in the Under-20 team. He wants to be
part of that
history, and also it's being held in his own country. Now, if he goes, that's another worry.
Yeah.
What if he comes back with an injury?
And once if we lose him I think it's the back end of the season now. I think there's still things for us to play for, so you want all your players fit. Ten Hag plays the strongest side all the time. And we were saying it as well, during the January period, that if you don't get enough players in, it's gonna be difficult towards the back end of the season. I'm gonna say we have injury issues, but Ten Hag doesn't ever make it look like there's an issue. If he will play his strongest team if they're injured, I would deal with that problem for the next game. That's the kind of mentality he has.
You're seeing more academy players training with the first team now because our bench is that thin. Like,
would you want to see a few, like, let's say after game week maybe 34, game week 35, the last 3 games, Kobe gets more minutes.
Depends on where we are in the league in terms of how comfortable we are in top 4 or top 3. Like you want to be as high up as possible in the table.
Do you think
the last 2 games of the season I know is Chelsea and Fulham at home? I don't know what the last 3 games is, but I know that it's Chelsea. The Chelsea game got rearranged.
Yeah, it did.
So that is 2 big games. Chelsea themselves are going through a midlife crisis. So you just want to add a bit of salt to that wound. Fulham, obviously we got the FA Cup history from the season with them. They might be fired up a bit. They themselves are having a very good season compared to what people expected them to have. So I would like to see the academy players, but also I would have wanted to see them integrated into the team from obviously the only real, we've seen Palestri and Garnacho. We've seen Kobe maybe 3 times.
This
season,
Cup games.
FA Cup, whatnot. Zidane, free Zidane, because I don't know what's happening with him. I want him to go on loan. I wanted him to go on loan in January because I'm seeing outside of Ahmad, all the other loan players that are getting great opportunities in the Championship and League One. They're really getting playing time. They're getting senior football, which obviously they wouldn't have got. I'm expecting a loan view from you on some soon.
of these.
The loan views coming soon.
The loan views.
Nice breakdown of hopefully everybody that's on loan. A specific look at the academy players. I was going to say commiserations to Charlie Savage because his team got relegated.
Is it?
Forest Green Rovers. Forest Green Rovers got relegated. It is what it is. He bounces back from that, but he's got some good playing time. Shola Shortau at Bolton Wanderers keeps picking up injuries. Ethan Laird having some issues at QPR. He's injury problems, whatnot. Ahmed Diallo, obviously. Hannibal Medri. This is sidetracked here. But the other day, Ahmed Diallo did something very bad. He did something very bad. He nutmegged Hannibal Medri to then score the winner against Birmingham.
They're brethren as well.
Yeah, they're brethren. So when I was watching the game, I couldn't believe it because he nutmegged Hannibal. 2 guys doubled up on him. He nutmegged Hannibal, skipped past the other player, but bam, slotted it home.
I'm telling you, he's a baller. I'm telling you, he's the one. He's the one for that right-hand side,
He's having a good loan. You said something to me off air, and we're going to come to it at the end. But he said to me off air that next season our forward line is going to be Rashford, Kane, and Ahmad. We need to talk about that. We need to talk about that, but we'll come back to it because let's talk about. You mentioned the 6-pointer against Spurs.
Yes. Spurs
themselves, another team going through turmoil.
They're
going through serious turmoil right now. How you attempt and you get sacked.
It's that bad, and then you got Ryan Mason, and again, this guy is.
Ryan Mason, his age mates are still playing football. I need to Google how old he is because I'm pretty sure maybe that he's still young. He should still be playing football. I don't know why he retired at such an early age in his. He's 31 years old. He's 31 years old.
Same age as Harry Kane.
How's his age mates, how's Harry Kane going to listen to him on Thursday telling him what to do when they're age mates?
I don't know.
I get it, maybe there's professionalism, all of that kind of stuff.
His tactics and his understanding of the game, is it going to be it's going to be ready? Is it going to be good? And I don't want to say all of this and then...
I shouldn't take the piss. I shouldn't mock him. He retired because of injuries. after head surgery.
Oh yeah, no, he had a massive injury.
Sorry guys. Okay, maybe that's why he's sorry.
Oh, he had a massive injury. He had a massive injury, but he's not good enough. Still, get somebody in that's good enough to manage the team.
The Spurs game, like, I want to know, does he have he might have a contract with Spurs where it's like, because how does he always survive every manager that gets sacked?
And he always comes in at this temporary role and it's not good enough, and then they're just going to capitulate.
So do you expect us to win then?
Yes. I mean, the last time we went there, I think they had a property. I can't remember the manager last season, but you know, Bruno was instrumental. Ronaldo volleys. I think he could have got a hat trick that game.
Ronaldo's got a hat trick against them, I think. Yeah. But that was at Old Trafford.
And an offside goal. No, but away from home as well. I think Cavani scored.
He batted them up as well.
Yeah. Listen, at their ground, it's going to be laughs and jokes, I think.
Beautiful stadium.
Yeah, great stadium.
It's a nice stadium to embarrass them in.
To embarrass them in. Do you know what I mean? It's really nice to collect 3 points from.
But then again, we could flip it and be like, oh, they might be motivated to prove a point. They've come out and said that they're going to reimburse all the fans that travelled to Newcastle for the game. Wow. I mean, I don't see why you're doing that, because you shouldn't know. Show it on the pitch. Yeah. Don't give me money. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure fans, like, I'm not speaking for the Spurs fans, they might be happy with, like, they might be supportive of that, but I don't think that sends the right message, because now every time you get your ass spanked, they're going to be like, run me my money.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just setting yourself up to fail there as well. Just the mentality of thinking, we were really bad. We threw in the towel and now it's just a real kind of
sportsmanship. To me, sportsmanship is to apologise
and do better.
The best, but you know what one of my siblings always used to say to me, the best apology is changed behaviour.
Yeah.
Every time when I was a kid and I used to apologise and then I'd do something again, they'd be like, the best apology is changed behaviour. So in this instance, you want me to acknowledge
that's youngest sibling vibes.
Yeah, proper, yeah. Only youngest sibling could get told off by their siblings. But legit, like, in that instance, right now, you want to prove to me that you want me to take your word and your apology. Let me see you next game.
Yeah.
So this is the game for them to be like, oh, you know, to step up, like Son, Kulusevski, all of them, man, Romero, all these players. They played it back. They're like the manager. I know he got sacked, the interim manager, but he played a back four in a team that never plays with a back four.
Yeah, I know.
And was surprised that they got spanked. Newcastle are a good team. By the way, they're a good team. Now, that's what I'm saying. It could go two ways. It could go like a good game, 2-1. Maybe we beat them 3-1, or it could be like a 1-1, 0-0, whatever. Like, it could go two ways. But I still think we'll beat them.
I think it's goals galore. I think it's going to be exciting.
I don't know about goals galore.
I think it's an exciting Dutch total football performance from Ten Hag. You know, the bounce back after Brighton was needed, and this is going to be an exaggeration. It's going to be an exaggeration of that.
Lloris got hooked at half-time against Newcastle. They were saying it was injury. I would love for him to be in goal. I'd love for him.
One of those old dinosaur goalkeepers that need to be changed with a modern keeper.
I think he's got like cataracts or something. I don't think he can see properly in his eyes, because some of the goals that he conceded, I was just like, what the heck? He's got poor eyesight.
He's old. He's a dinosaur. He's just one of those old Premier League dinosaur keepers that needed to be turned over. We've got one. Petr Cech's gone now.
Don't start. How Petr Cech?
No, but
Petr Cech's a good man.
He was good, but traditional. He's old school, you know.
But he ain't playing anymore. He's part of like Chelsea. I don't know.
Part of the point I'm trying to make, really. He's just the old keepers being turned over. You know, went over to Arsenal, then they realised, no, we need something more modern. They change it up, made a mistake, then get Ramsdale in. You know, same thing with Chelsea, changed it over. It's just one of those goalies that were back in 2010. I don't know how you're comparing
the evolution of Cech to David De Gea. I know that's what you're trying to get at.
No.
You know what, guys? You see, you see how we're not even talking about David De Gea, but he somehow, I was talking about Hugo Lloris being a poor goalkeeper, and he somehow find a way to link it to David De Gea. This is what you call Obsession 101.
No.
Welcome to my class, Obsession 101, featuring Marcel and his obsession with David De Gea.
No, there's no obsession. But moving on swiftly, because we don't want to go into this. We've got a second game against Aston Villa. What do you think about that game? And Villa, by the way, completely opposite to Spurs, have been playing brilliantly recently. They're really good. I was saying at the beginning of the season, you know, we were talking about what kind of striker Ten Hag wants,
Don't say it.
I'm gonna have to, and it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild, but I'm gonna have to say it because that's just who I am. So there was a choice in my head, and I think I've done a poll on Twitter. Out of these three players, just let me know which forward you would have preferred: Calvert-Lewin, Ollie Watkins, or Ivan Toney. And I think I done it on Twitter. And
I would take Ivan Toney.
Out of the three?
Yeah.
I think I said to him, I said,
Ollie Watkins.
I think I said Ollie Watkins. I said Ollie Watkins, Ivan Toney, Calvert-Lewin. And Ollie Watkins has just been fantastic this season. He's such a good player.
I won't say this season. I would say over the last 2 months, 3 months. I don't watch Villa a lot.
Yeah, no, neither.
But I do have him in my FPL team because I need the points.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very aware when he scores and when he assists and all of that stuff. But one thing about Villa is that, you know, even when Unai Emery came in, they beat us. Yeah. And then we had them again and then we beat them.
Yeah.
One thing that will work in our favour is obviously we're playing at home, coming off the back of a Thursday fixture. The good thing is everyone's playing midweek this week. Everyone's playing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Obviously some people are playing a bit earlier. But
even just in terms of preparation.
I think we'll be all right this week. I think fixture-wise, I think we'll be okay. Obviously, I'm more concerned of like Bruno and how his injury is. Marcel, every time someone touches him, I get scared. Shout out to Marcel because he played near enough 90 minutes on Sunday.
Yeah.
That's the closest that he's gotten this season to playing 90 minutes.
Exactly.
Rashford, I'm very worrisome in terms of he's hitting that dip.
And his performance, yeah, that's a good point. Do you think it's because it was is it a purple patch? Was that a purple patch where it's just goal after goal, unplayable?
No, I think as a team we were playing very well. Like we had a consistent 11.
Yeah.
We had a consistent 11. We were playing well from the back all the way to the front. And I feel like as a result of that, Rashford was able to play his best thing, and also he was fit. I feel like that knock that he picked up at Barcelona, he's not been the same since. Like he's been really. Like just off, and he scores, but it's like the match performance, that 90 minutes of work, it's not that level that he was before. But also, like then again, he's been playing consistently.
Yeah.
Like throughout the season, he's been playing.
We've played the most games in Europe.
Yeah,
Man United.
He's been playing consistently, and like you know, we talk about Bruno Fernandes always being available, but look, it's starting to impact him.
Yeah.
Like I was saying to you off camera, like this guy's gonna be 34, 35.
His
knees are going to be done out. His ankles are going to be bust up.
I hope not, man. I hope not. Because how to be so available, you must be like, in terms of looking after your body.
It will catch up with you at a later date. Like I got friends who are like long distance runners. And, you know, long distance runners, they can perform until like the age of 40. Like these people are running until, and I'm not even talking about casual like 5K, I'm talking about marathon runners, yeah? And when after a run or during like training, like, you know, they have no contact with the outside world. They go and train in high altitudes in East Africa. They come, they do their marathons, and then, you know, for like 3 weeks they're recovering. They're limping. They're literally limping. Like one of my friends, 2 people I know ran in the Rotterdam marathon a week ago while they were fasting. They were running while they were fasting. Heavy. One finished first, one finished third. Videos came out after the run. These guys were limping like they got 2 foot tackled for like about 2 weeks. And they told me that that's how it is. Yeah. So imagine as long distance runners, how you have to take care
Bruno's
of your body.
Doing 10K every week, every game.
Football is like 10 times worse. Like it's like you have to take care of your body when you're at the peak of your career, and you will feel the impact like at a later date. You might not feel it now, but you'll feel it later in your life, which is what a lot of footballers always say. They feel that impact, which is why a lot of them, once they stop playing football, they don't become these like workout people. Like they work out, they go to the gym, that kind of, but you won't see them playing casual 11-a-side football after they retire because their body can't. So Bruno, I'm worried that might happen to him, but if we get the best out of him for all these years, I'm alright with that.
I think we will, you know, with the right kind of players around him. I think, you know, you can just see that his game will continue to flourish and get better. But for the Villa game, I agree with you. I think, you know, in general, of course, as well, this week, I think we'll be all right. Spurs, for me, I'm full of confidence, especially after the manner in which, you know, we performed in the Brighton game. It was up and down, very even, but defensively, we've just been really, really solid. And that's been a feature of our season, really. Once Ten Hag gets the right back four, plus the goalkeeper.
Golden glove settings.
It's really, really good, man.
Golden glove settings.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. But it's not just about the goalkeeper, though.
No. It's a team effort. It's a team effort. Like last season, we were saying that David De Gea was conceding all these goals because of his back line. So you have to give the back line, you know, you have to give it credit.
I'm glad I'm with somebody that understands that concept. You know.
And also, I feel like for once in quite a few of these people's careers at United, they are actually being coached.
Yeah.
They're actually being coached. Like I remember under the previous full-time manager, a lot of reports came out when he left that he never used to take the training sessions. It was always
Ralph? Yeah.
Ollie.
Oh, Ollie as well,
Apparently,
yeah.
It was always Michael Carrick and the assistant coaches that always used to, which is understandable. They're assistant coaches, but it's different when the assistant coaches and the head coach are there running the sessions.
It's more personal.
Together.
It's more personal.
And
Level.
look at the job Carrick's doing with Middlesbrough now.
Yeah.
They went from he took over and they were like mid-table in Championship. Now they're fighting for promotion. They're playing in what is likely they're going to be the Championship playoffs for a spot in the Premier League. And they've got I don't want to butcher his name. I think he's Nigerian. I want to say he's Nigerian. Middlesbrough striker. His name is Chuba something. Akpom.
Oh, Chuba Akpom. Yeah. Arsenal.
Ex-Arsenal guy that at the beginning of the Middlesbrough season, he didn't even have a shirt number.
Is it?
He didn't even have a spot in the change.
He might come from Greece or something. I think he's playing out in
Yeah, he
different
played in
countries.
like Greece or something.
Yeah,
And then Michael Carrick completely turned him around. Absolutely. He set a record for most goals in Championship for Middlesbrough player ever. And he picked up...
They're competing for top of the table, I think.
No. Burnley have won it. Burnley have won the Championship. Yeah, they've won it. They're competing for a playoff spot.
Yeah,
so in Championship, is first and second go up.
Yeah.
And then third, fourth, fifth, sixth play in playoffs.
Yeah.
And then the winner of the playoffs come up.
That's more... apparently, there's more earning potential. You get more winnings for winning that playoff game. If you come up via the playoff game, then come in first, apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That playoff game is like a very expensive, that final.
Over the last 2 years, I'd say I've watched a lot more Championship football.
Yeah.
I never used to really watch it, but it's actually really, even relegation is looking peak as well. It's looking really, really good. But before we wrap up, obviously it's not a red room if Marcel doesn't have a question.
Ah, yes. Thank you very much. I've got... It's similar. We was talking about David De Gea. We was talking about the midfield. We was talking about forward line, and for me, the last episode we spoke on right backs, and I asked you about who would you rather, and right now I think there's no right back issue. We were saying that they're both fantastic, so I don't think we'll be going into the market for a right back. But what I would say is that I feel like for us to get to the next level, we still have an issue with the spine. I would say we need a new goalkeeper, another centre back, another midfielder, and another striker. So then, with that thought process, and we're just going to go with what I'm thinking as to be true, what would you rank each priority?
I feel like we've done this before.
But we've done it with a certain amount of players, or we've done it in the context of, what's more important out of these two positions. But I'm now saying that to be a dominant force, win Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues, it needs a new spine right now. It still needs four more players in those positions.
I wouldn't say it needs a new spine, because I feel like, if I'm
not a new spine, that's wrong maybe, but like Martinez and Varane are obviously starting, but you need another...
there, Bruno's there. Maybe we need,
you need one of each in each position.
I think I'll say one thing, we need a striker, obviously, that's not news. We need a midfielder, that's not news.
Centre back.
We need a backup centre back. I wouldn't say we need a starting centre back. Do you think we need a starting centre back?
I would say one to push both of them, and maybe not the left-sided centre back, because we've got Luke Shaw there, who I think is second choice and fantastic, and then we've got Martinez. So those two can carry you in season in, season out. But Varane, I'm not sure if he's capable of playing maybe 85% of the games, 80% of the games every season. And Lindelof is a little bit short of quality when it comes to being an elite centre back. So you're going to need one more. And once Maguire goes, you need an elite centre-back to either push Varane and Martinez, mainly Varane.
But would you want a defined centre-back, or would you be okay
Hybrid.
with a... No, I'm saying a defined centre-back, i.e. experienced.
Yeah.
Or would you want an understudy type of centre-back that you can kind of mould?
Defined.
Because I wouldn't mind having a centre-back, because realistically, Maguire's going next summer. This summer, sorry. Maguire's going to get sold. Lindelof could stay. He might want to leave to get playing time.
Yeah.
Don't know how that will play out. But I wouldn't mind buying a centre-back that would be not old, i.e., 22, 23, that is young, has senior experience, and can learn from Varane and play. Because realistically, one thing I think is working in our favour is Varane has left the national team. So his only football that he will be playing is for Manchester United.
Yeah.
There's quite a few centre-backs that I like. I have a list on my notes on my phone of like players that I like to watch.
Let me
in other
know.
leagues.
Let me know.
But one of them is one that I've been watching from the beginning of the season, called Lukeba. I might be pronouncing it wrong. He plays for Lyon.
Yeah.
Not the most experienced, but he's a quality centre back. He's a quality centre back. Another centre back that I like is Simakan, that plays at RB Leipzig. He can play as a right back he can play in a back three, and he can play as a wing back sometimes. Tall. The only thing I'm concerned about is his physicality, but I'm not too worried about it. I feel like outside of this league, there's quite a few young players, but if you want, the experience and the quality, the immediate quality, then you just have to go grab a centre back.
An experienced centre back,
or something.
I would say we don't, because we're trying to get to a team that's going to be regularly in the Champions League. I think the demand at Manchester United is trophies, but we've got to be pushing for that Premier League, Champions League. I think you need a world-class centre back, and in each position.
But then you have that in Martinez.
Yeah, but we need 2 11s, man. We genuinely do, and I think at the top.
2 11s, okay, cool, but I don't think you're going to get that in one window.
Oh no. Definitely not. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying that the centre back that we need to get has to be top level. The goalkeeper that you need to get has to be top level.
You see, we've been linked to Livakovic. I'm sorry if I'm saying that name wrong as well, but I think it's Livakovic.
Livakovic.
No, it's Livakovic. Livakovic.
My pronunciations are poor with a lot of things. Tarantula, yeah. So you come to the wrong person.
Him, but apparently he's got a 10 million release clause. I think he's like 28 years old. Yes. Obviously, he had a good World Cup.
Really good World Cup.
But again, for me, it's striker, midfielder, and then we need then backup stuff.
Okay, so your order for that, and in the comments below, just put it in there. Out of the 4 positions, what your priority would be. But you're going to say striker, midfielder, and then backup centre back.
No, and then goalkeeper, and then backups for all the other positions. Yeah. But for me, like, if we go into the window and we buy a Harry Kane, Osherman, whoever the striker is, and then we buy a midfielder, a De Jong, Enzo Lafi, whoever it is, we buy 2, and we fill those 2 spots with quality, I would not mind waiting to buy a goalkeeper. Or another.
It's going to hurt me, but
I wouldn't mind waiting to buy a goalkeeper if then we spend 30 million on a backup centre back.
It hurts me. Yeah, honestly, it hurts me.
I would be all right with that. It's just like there's so much uncertainty with this transfer window because of this whole takeover stuff. You just don't. I don't know what's going to happen.
Okay, I got another question, but just quickly, I agree with you. So I agree with you. 100%. I wouldn't mind. I just feel like it's a massive priority though, that goalkeeper issue. It's so important. Ten Hag wants to attack with 11 and defend with 11. You can't do that when one of them can't do elements of attacking and can't complete all his duties of defending properly.
Do you think, we would? Because for me, one goalkeeper that I really like is AC Milan's keeper.
Oh, Mike something.
Mike Maignan.
Oh, he's really good.
Yeah.
He's
the only player. The interesting fact, he's the only player that won a title and best player in the league in 2 different leagues in 2 consecutive seasons. He won it in the French league when Lille won it, and then he won it again with AC Milan.
It's either him or it's him or Diogo.
And I just feel like he don't get, like, when people talk about goalkeepers, nobody talks about him. It's crazy. No one talks about.
He's on my list.
No one mentions him. Not even just buying him, but just talking about the best goalkeepers in Europe. People talk about Courtois. They talk about Alisson. Okay, cool. Nobody ever mentions him.
He's top.
He's top. Why that is.
He's top, and I'm glad you've mentioned him. Him and the keeper from Porto, Diogo. It's top.
You got obsession with Diogo Costa.
Nah, he's good, man.
He's a good. One thing I like.
Him and Mike are top.
I was watching. I can't remember where I was. I can't remember what I was watching. I think it was maybe a game on Sky or something, and they were talking about goalkeepers. It was Champions League. I was watching Champions League Real Madrid game, and they were talking about Courtois. And when he comes out, when he rushes out, he makes himself so wide and so big that it's impossible for people to score past him.
He's got mad arms.
He's got arms for days, legs for days.
He should be a basketballer.
He could be a model. Like
he's just mad tall.
And the pundit, I can't remember who the pundit was, but he was saying like one thing that he excels in is that when he comes out and he makes himself so wide. Emi Martinez does the same thing. it makes players nervous, and then they just end up kicking the ball on him, and then he saves it,
forcing the action quickly.
Yeah, basically he forces the hand of the opposition just by what he decides to do.
By the way, Martinez is another keeper as well.
Martinez, Martinez is a good keeper. It's just like I don't like I like shithousery in football. I think there's levels to it. I feel like he just.
Too far.
Yeah,
it was a little bit disrespectful what he done with the goalkeeper trophy at the World Cup. That was a bit.
That was wild.
Yeah, that was wild.
In front of the Emir
so he's got a bit of that. But okay, last question. Tony Marshall, do we want him to stay on next season? I mean, I think I might have asked you on the full view already.
He ain't gonna. We spoke about it on the full view.
Yeah, we did.
He ain't gonna stay and be a backup option.
Just go on.
Remember when Zlatan came? Yeah. And they made him give his number to Zlatan.
Yeah.
And
that was Mourinho,
second fiddle. He was second fiddle. He was not happy. He was isn't that the year that he had a fall? It's just when he was having a fallout with with Mourinho. Sorry, he weren't happy. The last thing you want is a dressing room, an unstable dressing room. And Martial gives me the kind of personality vibe that his mood can impact the dressing room.
Yeah, potentially.
I would want him to be. If we buy a number 9, there's no one I would want that would be a better backup option than him, because then that saves us having to go and get a backup option. I would absolutely be okay with that. Would he be okay with that? That's a different story, because they are going to make him give up his number 9 shirt to whoever we buy. Yeah,
to Harry Kane. But it would be. But it's going to be on the left or right. He can play on the left or right as well, and he can play in the 10, Martial.
No, I would be happy for Martial to stay. Obviously, his wages are a bit mad. 250 is a bit.
Yeah, he needs to get that down as well.
But he's got, I think, 2 years left on his contract. And one thing that was disappointing for me last season is when he went on loan and he was fit at Sevilla. He was able to stay fit, relatively fit, and he just had poor performances like non-stop. And you want a player to go on loan, and look at it this season. No one's really talking about Alex Telles, who's at Sevilla.
Yeah.
No one's really talking about him. Dean Henderson, people are only talking about him because he's in the Premier League. He's in the league.
I read something about someone in Corinthians wants to buy him or something. A team in Brazil.
No one's talking about Eric Bailly, except for when he's doing a madness, fly kicking players in the chest.
No one's saying that.
When people are talking about United loanee players this season, they're talking about academy kids that are performing well, obviously.
That's so true.
Who are starting their careers. When Martial went out on loan, I really wanted him to, prove his value and to everybody. Obviously, I would love for him to be a backup, absolutely. But I think he and maybe a lot of his fans probably feel like he's better than that.
So I think he can play in the same team as Harry Kane. I think Ten Hag can make it all work. I think he can make it all work, and having Martial as a second striker.
I wish I had KG's soundboard. I'd just be like, crack it, crack it, crack it.
I'm telling you, this happens. Last season I was saying to everyone, Bruno should be captain. Bruno should be captain. He should be the captain of the team. Then all of a sudden, Bruno became captain.
What are you saying? You see into the future?
I'm telling you.
That's so Marcel.
I said Harry Kane. Look, all of a sudden Harry Kane.
No, you are the one person from Day Dot. You were saying to me Harry Kane.
David De Gea needs to go. All of a sudden David De Gea is okay, new contract. But really and truly, guys, come on. You guys all know he's not good enough. So
you see how we're not even talking about David De Gea. Like we did not. You see, I didn't mention anything. But again, Obsession 101. Welcome to therapy with Marcel. Obsession 101. David De Gea. Because I didn't say anything about David De Gea, but you brought him up.
I'm just letting people know that I predict these things. I predict these things, and that's what I'm saying.
On that note, we're gonna wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of The Red Room. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Please put in the comments if you agree with anything that I said, if you agree with anything Marcel said, or if you disagreed with anything that Marcel or myself said. Make sure, like I said, make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. You guys can become a member. Obviously, we've got a heap of games coming up this week. We've got Spurs, Manchester United women are also playing, which I will be covering hopefully, so make sure you check that out. We've got Aston Villa, and of course, lots of content to come, so make sure you lot keep rocking with the channel. You can listen to us on all streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever you like to listen to. You can make sure you listen to us on there. Make sure you hit 5 stars on there, guys, please. I know you lot watch on YouTube, but just go over to Apple, go over to Spotify, just hit 5 stars. And until next week, it's Mina, Marcel, it's The Red Room here on United View.